Are you ready to get casual? Grab your favorite adult beverage or combustible plant and join us for our roundtable TTRPG discussion. Oh yeah, it's time for Casual Friday. And now, here are your hosts.
Oh my goodness, it's time for Casual Friday. I'm Jim, that's Brad, that's Ryan down there. We are collectively known as the Landlocked Warlocks of the Landlocked Warlocks YouTube channel, where we do Casual Friday, and we also on occasion do a thing called the OPOSC, the one-page one-shot cartel, where we play one-page one-shots. But today we're talking about the news in the D&D and regular tater pig industry. And as usual, my kid's teacher emails me like right at the beginning of the show. But so a couple days ago, a name that you, if you are a fan of this channel, a name that you probably know. Hey, Twin Steel. Nope, that's not it. XP to level 3, Jacob Buds, as he's also known, put up a video about getting scammed, where he talked about a Kickstarter. And I know that a lot of our audience are creators, so I thought that this would be relevant for us to discuss here. Oops, just a second.
Yeah, I mean, all of us have done ads for Kickstarters. We all have on our channels, right?
Yeah. The too long, hey Nacho, the too long didn't read here. Basically, he was going to do a Kickstarter ad, got a funny feeling about the company, and then he learned that he wasn't going to get paid until after the Kickstarter, when the creator was theoretically counting on the Kickstarter money to pay ad budget, which was not disclosed in their communications between XP to level 3, and he uses an agency to negotiate ad rate and that kind of stuff. And there were some things that from XP level 3's video he noted where that he tracked all the red flags after the fact. Mm-hmm. He says red flags were that he got a little bit of a weird vibe up front just from the initial communication. He thought it was strange that they had a lack of art assets to provide for the ad. In fact, he said he had to go to their website and screenshot their logo to get a copy of their logo. And the Kickstarter page was very bare. Now, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of experience with this in the TTRPG industry, but in the author industry, we do things called swaps, where I give you info about my book, you send it to your newsletter list, then you give me info about your book, I send it to my newsletter list. It's called a swap. Now, there's kind of an unspoken etiquette in the swap that I'm going to provide that other author with a high-quality JPEG of my book, also some swipe copy for them to paste so they don't have to make up their own blurb. But like, it's just known, this is what you do. Mm-hmm. When you do a swap, you provide this information to make it easy for the other person. And so, but he had to actually take a screenshot of their website, which is a pretty big red flag. So I don't know. What are your initial thoughts here?
Yeah, well, another observation I had is that really the only reason he caught this was because one of his videos he was working on took longer to develop. So he was only going to release 3 videos that month instead of 4. If that hadn't happened and he released 4 videos that month, he would have run this ad, just like Josiah from Dungeon Dad did. And apparently Ryan just let us know Crispy did the same thing. So yeah. So, he had the weird feeling, but like you said, he didn't really track all the red flags until after he didn't run the ad and was trying to figure out, okay, when can I run this ad next month? Because it didn't fit in this month.
And he shot the thing, right? Like the title's I almost got scammed, but like he did get scammed. The guy didn't get the advertising out, right? Like he didn't benefit from it, but like Jacob did the work. He didn't like figure out where to insert it into a video, which is the easiest part of an ad read, like especially when you don't have all your assets lined up for you. It's tough. I mean, I am a much smaller level creator here, but like I've been looking at opportunities slash requests that come to me, and it's like, I don't know if I want to like support this. And like your first instinct is to help the little guy. At least my first instinct is often to be like, cool, yeah, same team, same boat. The more success, the better. And it's sometimes it's very hard, especially in this like hobby industry, to differentiate between earnest effort and like small, scrappy underdog types and people who one don't know what they're doing or what they're signing up for, or two, potentially, and this seems to be the attitude of most of the people talking about this situation, running a Ponzi scheme and scamming people out of their efforts and money. And it's just bad. It's bad all around because, you know, we are not running a commercial in the middle. Like you see a commercial in the middle of this from YouTube. That's one thing. Another thing is one of us like reading out and representing something as being worth backing or buying. So you are throwing your lot in with these people sometimes, and they're paying you for reputation. So it is, you know, whatever. In a few months when I do another Kickstarter, like Jacob's gonna be like, I don't know, this guy's pretty small. He's pretty small. I don't know if I want to take the risk. And it also hits everybody else, backers, right? Like the next time, because like they made £15,000, which in American dollar reduce is more than 15,000. So they made money. They did well. A lot of people ponied up, and those are people who are going to at least think twice before backing another product. And it's bad, man. It's just it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It paints us all in a bad brush. It's not good.
Yeah, you're right. Like so much of this hobby, you know, or well, this community, right, is helping each other out, right? Like, like I did an ad for your Kickstarter, Ryan. Back in the day, that's how we met, I believe, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And you know, and then that developed into a friendship over the, you know, the past 2 years.
It's actually, this is a Ponzi scheme too. It's a long
game. You're running a long game on me. All right. But yeah,
that reminds me, I need to show you guys the email our agent forwarded me from Lucky Strike for that sponsorship opportunity.
Lucky Strike.
Lucky Strike. It's toasted.
But yeah, like, I mean, so much of this is about relationships. And, you know, I don't know if this guy with this Kickstarter was like malicious and actually was trying to scam people, or if he was just extremely naive about how Kickstarter worked. But either way, he clearly had a negative impact on, you know, a few pretty big members of our community. That's not going to bode well for his future as a member of this community.
Yeah, and it sounds like that the agency that XP to level 3 uses, even though he was very profuse in his praise, it sounds like they were the ones who got scammed, really, because they passed on the opportunity to him without fully doing their due diligence about it. And he trusted them. Bigger hair cigarette company. All right, so moving on. Speaking of getting ripped off, we are going to talk a little bit about the economics of the future of the tabletop industry. As Brad brought to our attention, there's a video by Mr. Baron Derop, aka Dungeon Masterpiece, right?
Right.
Yeah, Dungeon Masterpiece.
He's back.
Back in a suit, looking sharp as ever. Hair cut perfectly, tie perfectly in the middle. Perfect winter knot there. And he made a video where he posited 4 possible futures for essentially Dungeons and Dragons in relation to the hobby as a whole. Now I have that image, but if somebody can vamp for a second, I will share that.
Yeah, so we're gonna break out our crystal ball and like make our predictions for the long-term future of Dungeons and Dragons. We've talked about the future of Wizards of the Coast and the future of, 5.5 a lot on this show, but yeah, let's look at the long game here.
So
And now
what?
to set the stage, Baron does this professionally, not for D&D, but like this is his day job, is like predicting the future forecast for let's say bigger
Socioeconomic,
industries.
yeah,
Yeah.
socioeconomic forecasts, right?
He is a futurist. So he's probably right, and I'm going to disagree with him. Let's go.
He also interviewed a whole bunch of people, including like Seth Skorskowski and other YouTubers, as well as people in the video game industry and former Wizards of the Coast employee. He interviewed a whole, I think it was like 20 different people to gather opinions and data for this video.
Yeah, and in his video, it's related around this graphic where he proposes 4 potential scenarios of what's going to happen. Where scenario 1 is the most likely at something like 40%, scenario 2 was 25%, and then scenario 3 and 4 were down in the 10 or 15%. Where there are 2 axes here, whether the game becomes more or less centralized, and whether the companies, namely WotC and Hasbro, can adapt or not to changes in the market. And it's kind of funny here where player centralization is centralized, basically meaning everybody wants to play the same game, right? I think that's what he means by that.
Right. Centralized meaning that like D&D stays the biggest chunk of the market.
And institutional adaptability high being something like WotC being able to quickly respond to demands from the fans to produce new content or new types of content, and institutional adaptability being low is basically what they've been for the last 10 years, where, they put out what they want to put out regardless of what the market claims they want. And so the most likely scenario, the clueless scenario 1, is basically that things will stay the same as they are. WotC will continue to dominate. The other groups will continue to chip away, but not enough to make a significant dent over time. But WotC will continue to put out lackluster products that people don't really like, but they continue to buy. Thoughts there?
I mean, it makes sense that would be one of the most likely scenarios, because that's been the state of the industry for 30 years. Why would we expect it to change? Right? Well, almost 30 years. When did WotC buy?
99, 2000, around there.
Yeah.
Which is almost 30. Ugh.
It's crazy. I'm so fucking old. But yeah, so that does seem like a pretty likely scenario, with the exception of everything that's happened over the last 3 years, right? Like the OGL debacle and the explosion of indie games, the success of Daggerheart, the success of MCDM. Like that makes it start to look like maybe we're actually going to see a shift in the industry. But we also saw that when Pathfinder really started to challenge 4th edition, right? So is basically what the OGL debacle is, that just another close call, kind of like Pathfinder almost beating out 4th edition, or have we actually created a real change?
I don't. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I mean, as much as I don't agree with everything Barron says, and this video had a bibliography, so he's right and I'm wrong. I do think scenario 1 is the most likely, but we are starting from further down and to the left, and I think we're moving closer to where the axes meet over the course of the next decade. I think we're still in that quadrant of a clueless hegemon running D&D, but I do think we have bottomed out. I do think we bottomed out with the OGL and all of that, and like the momentum took a while to play out, and I think we're kind of here at the bottom. I don't see it. Betting on phenomenal change and a new independent game showing up and being the new 500-pound gorilla in the room is a bad bet. I also think betting on things not changing at all systemically is always a bad bet. I think that is never the right course of action. Particularly and he talks about this in the beginning of this, like, the broader economic and political climate has an impact on how this industry and every other industry works. Now, I think maybe this industry is maybe a little more resilient than some other ones, because you don't actually have to spend a ton of money, right? This is not necessarily it's a luxury, but it's like one book and your imagination and you're good to go. But that doesn't necessarily serve WotC. They want you to be in there, check out. Yes. So I think we're seeing a rebuilding era. Like, I think we're in this trough because they're rebuilding. I think we're going to see D&D look kind of different. I think the premise, and I don't know if he came in with this or maybe some of the people he was talking to convinced him of this, like the D&D Renaissance looks a lot like the OSR in his presentation in that video, which is a great video. Mad respect to Barron, go watch it. But the idea that the way to have a D&D Renaissance is to go back to the darker, grittier art style and be reminiscent of the Satanic Panic era and get the older male Gen X guys to come back and stay. I don't know if that is actually a Renaissance or a Dark Age. I don't know if that is going to help the bottom line of a company who is trying to build a broader base and appeal to younger generations, because those are the people who are coming along, right? Everyone thinks millennials are, 20-year-olds refusing to go to Applebee's, but like, nah, man, we're old now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
Didn't he have two possible Renaissance scenarios? One is that the indie community continues to go, progressive and cozy core and all that sort of stuff, and therefore the D&D Renaissance would be the darker, grittier one. The other option is if the indie audience continues down this path of OSR and Shadow Dark and Morkborg, then D&D's Renaissance might be more the cozy core direction, right? So like, we could see D&D choose to go the opposite direction of whatever the indie community is doing, right? I think was where he was talking about options for a D&D Renaissance. Yeah,
and I think the scenario too is, regardless of which way it goes, whether it's a new what scenario 2's success hinges on, for whatever reason, 6e being really good.
Mm-hmm.
If 6e is good because it's bare bones, or if 6e is good because it's super duper more complicated than Pathfinder 1e, we don't know. But if 6e is killer, that will lead to a D&D Renaissance.
Or we could not see a D&D Renaissance until 7e, right?
Yeah. Bear made a good point. Yeah. Bear made a good point in the video about how 4e launched during a recession, and 5e launched during an economic boom in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and 5.5 launched during a recession.
Yeah.
So, so I think it might largely depend on our economy here in the States as to whether 6e is well received, or whether we wait and don't get a D&D Renaissance until 7th edition. Right? I mean, right now, financial people I talk to say the economy is only going to get a lot worse before it's going to get better. So, 6E might fly under the radar, kind of like 4E did.
I don't know what you've heard, Brad. I heard the Dow's over 50,000. So
it's a house of cards.
Scenario 3 is a wild indie appears. This is the next Shadow Dark, but 10 times better than Shadow Dark, which is probably
this
not
is Pathfinder.
possible, but yeah, this is Pathfinder. And when you guys were talking about the OGL, I realized that I hadn't thought about what is the effect of the OGL now, today. We know what it did then, and we know what it did for a while after, but is the OGL still affecting things now, or has it run its course? Like, because, I played with a group during the OGL crisis, and they never heard a word about it. We never brought it up. I mentioned it once, and they were like, OG what now? And I think those are the average D&D players, people who didn't care. And so, I mean, the OGL clearly birthed Shadow Dark, and it birthed the Orc license, and it probably gave haste to draw Steel and Daggerheart. They probably came out years earlier than they would have.
Mm-hmm.
But is it doing anything now? I don't know.
I mean, one point he made in that video is that, the boomers eventually die off. Right? The boomers are mostly in their 60s and 70s right now. And, like I said, I've run games for kids at, middle school, high school level. And all they want to play is 5e. Because they're not paying attention. They just want to play D&D. And when they Google D&D spells, when they Google D&D character sheets, when they Google D&D monsters, they're getting 5e stuff because that's what's ubiquitous out there on the internet. So I'm running 5.5 and they keep bringing up 5e stuff because that's what pops up on their phone when they search, Melf's Acid Arrow. It's the 5e version, right? So they don't care. They don't know anything about this stuff. They just want to play D&D because the brand recognition is significant enough that that's the game they all know role-playing game as, right?
Indeed. Then the final scenario was the one I'd kind of checked out of the video by that point, to be honest. But the final scenario I kind of understand is that it all falls apart. Like Hasbro gets broken up or something. Basically, that everything the hobby goes to crap.
Well, and then somebody comes in and buys it out. That's the cash in part. The cash in is somebody like Elon Musk threatened to a while back, comes in, buys the brand, and then completely relaunches it in a way that's going to make money. So, the idea being somebody with a lot of investment capital buys Dungeons and Dragons, and then turns it into some fast-paced app-based game that they can make a whole bunch of money on.
Yep.
And I think if that was possible, WotC would have already done it. Right? Because WotC's looking for a way to make money off of this, and they've had a tremendous amount of financial success with Magic the Gathering online. So,
well, I think they've tried. I think they've been trying to do that for 15 years, and the fans just keep saying no.
Right.
And what happens is, if Hasbro, if D&D gets sold off and then bought by some, like, God forbid, a private equity firm would be the worst case scenario, because what they do is they're just going to look at it and go, okay, what's profitable? Let's squeeze that, get rid of everything else, and then they're going to say, all right, we're going to have to turn this into a digital subscription company. The fans don't like it, tough. We'll get new fans. The fans say they won't like it, but they're going to pay for it anyway. And then that's what they do, because they don't care. They have no to them, it's a cell in a spreadsheet. It's not actually a hobby that people love. Any final thoughts here on Dungeon Masterpiece's video on the economics of D&D's future?
I mean, I think there's a scenario where two things can be true at once.
Mm.
And I think if we look at like 2014 to 2020, right? We saw both a D&D renaissance with the launch of 5e and a pretty wild independent competitor with the success of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, right? So I think we could see where like a combo scenario where we get, the D&D Renaissance and a wild indie, and then those two are competing just like 5th edition and Pathfinder 2 did. So we could see, D&D 6th edition and Daggerheart 2nd edition going head to head for the top of the industry. I think that might be a most likely scenario.
Yeah, the best way to ensure that 6e will be good is for Shadowdark to sell 5 million copies.
Right.
That's the thing. That would scare WotC. If Daggerheart sells 5 million, 10 million copies, that'll scare the crap out of WotC, and they'll take it seriously and make 6e good.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's what has to happen. And that's what happened with 4th edition Pathfinder. Like WotC said, all right, we have real competition. And we tried to be super innovative with fourth edition, and we failed. So we've got to take 5th edition seriously. And 5th edition turned out to be really good for its time. So we could very well see that, where we see whatever the best in the independent industry is, whether it's, whatever rises to the top, Daggerheart, Draw Steel, Shadowdark, whatever rises to the top, and then we finally get a 2nd edition of that game, and then that is now competing with 6th edition.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're fundamentally linked. The success of D&D, to a degree, drives the success of everything else in the hobby. It's the tip of the spear, or the widest part of the funnel, or the bottom of the Ponzi scheme. Wait, no, sorry. I mean, I play with, because like all of this economic stuff can either be super boring and you tune out, or super scary because you feel like you have no control over it. But most of the people watching this are dungeon masters. You have a huge influence on what is happening in your local community, which ripples out. Mm-hmm. So if you want independent games to be successful, run them. If you don't need to wait for D&D to fail in order to get your buddies to try Shadowdark in a few months. If D&D fails and Elon Musk buys it, that's not necessarily better. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the monopoly, man. I'm on record. But so better the devil you know in a lot of cases. There's people in that room trying to make the best version of the game. I think there's a lot of people outside of that room who are seeing a rebuilding era as the death of D&D because they are rooting for it, perhaps justifiably. But like, as far as I'm concerned, 5.5 just started, and it's off to a rocky start because the people who are making it all left. So I don't know what this edition of, like, whatever we're in right now is just about to start. The adventures and supplements that come out over the course of the next few years is going to say a lot about the future of D&D. And I root for D&D, even though I want to run other things, because I play twice a week with all guys around my age. There's probably like a 2-decade bracket there, but I'm not running the game for kids. I'm running for people who've been playing for a long time. And I went to all 10, 11 of these people and I was like, hey, I'm going to run some Shadowdark. And they all said, what's that? Straight up. And if they weren't playing D&D, they wouldn't play Shadowdark. But because they've played D&D, they're going to play Shadowdark now, because I'm going to force those guys. I hope you're watching. But that's what it is here. D&D is kind of the center of this solar system of TTRPGs, and you might not love it, but if the sun goes out, then things get weird and orbits change, and I don't think we all die, but I don't know. Maybe.
There's some really good comments in chat that I wanted to call out. Amrosa 10 points out that Justice Armand, James Hake, Sean Merwin are all having a big influence on the direction of Dungeons and Dragons moving forward, and those are all names that I trust. I think that's a good group of guys that could really shape D&D into something that could, create a renaissance. And then the impact of the OGL is the fact that the SRD ended up in the Creative Commons. And then Mr. Welch points out that, if that's the case, that most of the content that's going out there is being built off of the SRD and the Creative Commons, right? Then the industry continues to look more like Dungeons and Dragons and Shadowdark, Morkborg, those categories, right? The OSR, because it's a D20 system, we're using the Creative Commons SRD versus the innovative Daggerhearts, MCDMs, and that sort of stuff. And so, and to that end, when we're talking about things that are based on 5e and the SRD, we should be mentioning Nimble as one of the indie contenders and all this, as Twin still keeps pointing out.
Indeed.
So, but yeah, so some great insights from you guys in the comments. Thanks.
Yes, we love you, chat. Thanks for hanging out. So moving on, I guess it's time for me to finally abandon that long gestating Austin Powers TTRPG I've been working on, because there's a new supplement for Blades in the Dark called Blade 68. Shagadelic, baby.
Shagadelic.
So this is not from John Harper himself. This is there's a Kickstarter, 27 days left, and it's already at 268,613 at 30K. This guy's rich. Just kidding, as we've already established. Okay, so this is 100 years fast forwarded from the Blades in the Dark Duskfall setting. Now they are entering the blue time, the age of electroplasmic fusion. There's some really cool stuff in here. It's from Tim Dene, who made Deathmatch Island, which I'm not familiar with. 450-page matte hardcover, 6x9. That's a pretty hefty book. Subversive spy games, daring heists, and paranormal mind benders. Where's the stuff I was looking for? Okay. So you get new classes or new playbooks like radical swingers, intellectuals, and paranormalists. New crews like militants, racers, or the utopians. This book is in color, which the original Blades in the Dark was not.
Mm-hmm. Very different tone.
In the swinging 60s, there's a plasmovision in every home, an autopod in every driveway, and a blue array overhead keeps the supernatural horrors of the Deathlands at bay, mostly. This looks really cool. I'm definitely going to buy this, read it, and love it, and probably never ever run it.
Well, that's you, Jim. That's
my bag. But I mean, when you tell me your touchstones are James Bond, Ocean's 11, and A Clockwork Orange, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, have you guys been watching the new Fallout season? I mean, I love all that like retrofuturism stuff, right? Like this like sci-fi flavored version of the 60s with a big old dose of James Bond and, built on a heist mechanic system like Blades in the Dark. I mean, what's not to love about this? Like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
My biggest barrier is finding someone to run it for me, because I have a big aversion toward learning new systems.
And Blades is complex. It is not a rules light system.
Yeah.
Blades, whatever, it's a different video, but they do a lot of cool stuff. And John Harper's got his fingers on this. So, and it's Evil Hat. We opened the conversation with not all Kickstarters are trustworthy. I'm pretty confident this one's gonna work. You're gonna end up with a book at the end of this guy.
Evil Hat has a great reputation, for sure.
Great stuff. I'm curious. I have a theory that they're in a room or an email chain that went on for quite a long time. It was between 67, or I'm sorry, 67 and 69, and that's how they landed on 68. I don't know. I have no supporting evidence, but that is my hypothesis. And I really like a game that makes a choice, right? Like, one, they spell it out. Like, hey, show me your Appendix N, and I will get the vibes very quickly. But, like, make a choice and do something. There's a lot of, like, you know what movie you're in when you pick up this book. You know what kind of character you're making. I'm not going to shoehorn in my anime guy unless the anime guy is from an appropriate genre, right? Like, it's not everything all at once. It's not a kitchen sink. You can do a lot with it, but there is a very specific mod aesthetic. And I dig it. I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to shoehorn in an anime-inspired character, I think the closest you're going to pull from is like...
Twin Steel saying what I was thinking was Lupin the Third.
Yeah, Lupin the Third, or oh crap, just drew a blank on it. The bounty hunter, the sci-fi bounty hunter one, with the
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop, yeah.
Oh, you're speaking my language, yeah.
Yeah, I think you could steal some Cowboy Bebop flavor and splash into this maybe if you're trying to find something from a classic anime.
Yeah.
This looks very, very cool. I was just thinking about red flags and Kickstarters. And I think one is that if you look and you see it's their first Kickstarter and they have a bunch of hardware in the Kickstarter, that's something to be a little nervous about. I mean, Evil Hat, obviously not. But if you look, it's like their first Kickstarter and every reward is like a hardcover book, a special gold coin, a lanyard, a block. I'm like, yeesh.
A bunch of miniatures, right?
Do you have merch experience? I don't know. I just think about this time I worked for a software company and we fell on financial hard times and we had to get into hardware. And I remember when we did, I remember the CEO of the company looking dejected and he looked me in the eyes and he goes, "Don't ever get into hardware, kid." I think about that all the time. Don't ever get into hardware, kid.
I had a lot of people being like, "Why don't you make minis? Make some dice." It's like, that's a whole other business. And plastic can double in price overnight, and all of a sudden, all those things you sold cost more to make than you thought they would.
Yeah, and we saw that with all the tariff stuff, right? Like, there was a ton of Kickstarters when all the tariff crap went down that either canceled or very much struggled to deliver because they had miniatures or dice or things made out of plastic that were now 3 times more expensive to get into the country.
Yep.
So yeah,
whole other business. Don't get into hardware, kid. All right, but if you like, you can download. I guess there is a 40-page preview on,
cool.
Drive-Thru RPG. 40 pages.
Nice.
Can we get a little?
That's a green flag.
That is a green flag. It would be nicer if there was a one-click download, but I don't really fault them for putting it on Drive-Thru. Anyway, all right. So, okay. All right. And how about Gorgonzola Provolone? Don't even get me started on this microphone, which means it's time for us to do the catch-up, which is part of the show where we say what we got going on. So who wants to tell us what they got going on?
I've got to sit down with my notes from my Shadow Dark campaign and figure out how to connect the dots, because I had this brilliant idea we just started a new game of Shadowdark, and on the back of the character sheets, because thankfully Shadowdark is only a 1-page character sheet, I put a bunch of questions for the players to interact with the world and help co-create this campaign, which included the campaign set in a city. So the question is, what district of the city are you from? So when they answered that, then they got to give me some information about that district of the city. They got to make up a piece of, drama or a faction or something for that section of the city. What is your character willing to die for? What is your closest loved one in the city? And I promised them I wouldn't do horrible things to their loved one, but they have to so they have a point of contact in the city. And then what is your character's greatest desire? And then as a group, they had to decide who they worked for. So who in the city brought them all together? Why are they working together, and what organization is kind of backing them? So I gathered all that information from all the different players, and now I have to build a campaign out of it.
Mm-hmm.
If only there was some sort of system that was cleverly named and arranged.
Something that was explosive and creative.
Oh, I was thinking about yours, actually, but yeah, go for it.
I was thinking about your book, Ryan.
I was thinking about 4 feuding factions. Man, so what am I up to? I took off from my Strahd campaign this week, which is good because I've been really calculating what Strahd's doing now. He's very much on the table. Last week, friend of the show's Pittsburgh Pat ran us through something that he was working on, and it was set in Waterdeep because it was convenient, big fantasy city to have a Battle of the Band sort of situation. We ended up going to talk to Xanathar because when in Waterdeep, why not? So this past week, he ran us through an Adventure League module that was concurrent in the season or whatever with Dungeon of the Mad Mage. That era, which maybe they should get back to doing that, guys, or maybe the the beauty of a one-shot. So we played very smart. We successfully infiltrated Xanathar's ship, the Wrath, I forget what it's called. We got the MacGuffin. We're ready to leave, but there's a secondary side quest sort of situation that we're probably going to have die to Xanathar if we pursue. So essentially we're all right, if we fight this guy, it's going to take 3 hours. So we're going to do that next week. We're going to save here. We're all going to acknowledge that we could leave right now and be successful. And we're going to make the fun choice and drive it like we stole it. And we're all going to die. And it's going to be amazing. And we're going to remember it forever. Because that's the way that I want to play D&D, and I'm lucky enough to have found people who are on board for that. They're in it for the story, not to win a game. And oh boy, it's the best. We're gonna go out in a blaze of glory next week, eyes wide open, nice. And I maybe survive if Pat pulls a punch or we do something very clever. But yeah, I don't know. We'll live to tell the tale.
Nice. In my Strahd campaign, we had a TPK last week, but then this week we woke up at the Mists. I guess the DM decided to just give us a do-over. We have a mysterious patron. Well, not mysterious. We have a patron from earlier in the campaign that we met, who we didn't know was a patron, but is apparently a patron. We came back. And I think the DM kind of acknowledged that the combat was and he was recapping, he said, he made it a point to say something like, I did actually run that exactly how it is in the book. Because we just opened the session complaining. Anyway, we should move on. I do have a video coming out on Sunday. I clipped out our Game of Thrones discussion, and I put some graphics and music and stuff on it, so I'm going to put that out on Sunday.
Cool.
So moving on to the second half of the show, or probably the last quarter of the show. So Brad hipped us to information about the dungeon crawler Descent is getting a video game. I know nothing about the dungeon crawler Descent. I first thought I know there was a video game in the 90s called Descent.
Mm-hmm.
Say it right.
What?
Vidya.
Vidya. Oh, right. I was
Vidya.
like, did I say Descent funny? I'm like decent. You want me to say it like my grandpappy would? Decent. The Vidya games. So I'm not gonna press play here because companies get mad when we try to promote them.
Yeah, we don't want copyright issues for playing somebody's ad. God forbid we give you free advertising. Yeah, well, so Descent is a dungeon crawling board game that I have actually never played, but I'm very familiar with. I'll tell you why in a minute. So it's kind of like Hero Quest, kind of like some of the other Games Workshop, dungeon crawlers over the years. So it's most of the gameplay revolves around like cardboard dungeon tiles, and you do have somebody who runs the game very much like a dungeon master, but it's a board game, so it's all dungeon exploration and combat based. There's no actual role play, but yeah. So the Descent board game, the reason I'm familiar with it is because right about the time 5th edition launched, the Descent board game was starting to wane, and the Descent board game came out and it was just starting to wane in popularity. So it was a great way to pick up a whole bunch of miniatures. So I bought a whole bunch of the Descent expansion packs and the board game itself, because I got a ton of miniatures that way. So most of the Descent stuff I bought kind of factored out to like $2 or $3 per miniature. So it was a great way to build up my miniature collection. I also bought a bunch of the D&D board games back then, because before 5th edition got super hot, those old D&D board games were super cheap. You could get them for like 30 or 40 bucks, and they came with like 30 plus miniatures. So that's how I became familiar with the Descent board game. But what I thought about what might be cool about this is if this is a very popular Vidya game when it comes out, it could, like, when we see Diablo have a new game come out, or, like Baldur's Gate 3, a lot of these video games inspire people to want to play the role-playing games, right? So we could see when this video game comes out, if it's really good, if it's popular, we could see an influx of new players wanting to do dungeon crawls, which could be really cool.
Are they really making another Dark Alliance game?
Are they?
I hope not. Or no, Warlock is made by the same people. That's what it is. That thing that got all that press with Trisha Helfer and the
oh yeah.
Yeah, that was Warlock, and I'm pretty sure that's the same studio. Although they didn't really pump up that fact.
that they were the ones that made the new Dark Alliance.
From the studio that brought you the abject failure Dark Alliance.
Oh, now the original Dark Alliance games, those were was that around like 2000? No, that had to be like 2003.
Never played them.
They were actually really good. I played them on Xbox. They also were out on PlayStation 2, if I remember right. It's a long time ago. One of the few things my ex-wife and I really enjoyed doing together was playing those original Dark Alliance video games.
Well, this looks cool in dungeon crawly, and I am in favor of anything that gets people wanting to explore dungeons.
Definitely.
I don't know if these people made the digital version of Terraforming Mars. Interesting. All right, anything else you guys want to say about this new Vidya game?
I don't know much else to say other than hopefully it's good. So
Cool.
you get some cool D&D inspiration.
Ryan, you got any thoughts? All right.
No,
so,
stuff like this you can steal maps from, steal ideas from. It's dope.
Yeah.
If you especially like, hey, remember that game from 20 years ago that you really liked? Mine it for ideas. No one will recognize it, and if they do, it's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these minis look pretty tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the new version of the board game. Since I cannibalized a whole bunch of their stuff for D&D, they've come out with a new edition. So those images are from the new edition of Descent, which has been out for a while. So you might be able to pick it up fairly reasonably if you're looking to collect a whole bunch of new miniatures.
But this one, I did read this one. This one doesn't use a Dungeon Master. It uses an app.
Oh,
So
that's right. Yeah.
make sure the app is up to date before you spend any money. You could download the app first and make sure that it works with iOS 26 or whatever Android version is out there now.
That's a good point. But you might not even play the video game, or you might not even play the board game. That's like I never
Right.
played the board game Descent. I just bought all their stuff to use for D&D.
Well, there you go. All right. So to round out the show, we have a little bit of tea that was recently spilled that I found pretty interesting because this was a drama that I had been following. That was the Obelisk plotline.
I'm excited for this because I intentionally have not read this article, so I don't know the tea. So
Oh, goodness.
you guys are going to get a live react.
So basically, here's what happened. So starting in early 5th edition, starting in Rime of the Frost Maiden, I believe was the first one, obelisks started showing up in 5th edition adventures. It would just be a little weird thing that would be in a paragraph on the side of the road in some travel segment or something like that, or be an obelisk in a town in an adventure and nobody would know what it was there for. They were just like, oh, that's just the weird glowing obelisk in the middle of the town. We don't know what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of it got mentioned enough that people were like, what's going on with this? And they said, we're building towards something.
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently now the reason I got dropped is pretty obvious. Chris Perkins, his responsibility shifted away from design over to more businessy kind of stuff. So this was his baby, it was his idea, and his initial idea, where does he say it exactly? He said, it was all, the plan in my mind was that we would culminate the story by going back in time to fight the Netherese Empire. It was always on our radar to bring Netheril back in some way. This was the way I'd envisioned it happening because you could really only fight Netheril again to travel back in time. I was excited about the idea of time travel because it would feel very different from the other campaigns we had done up to that point.
Yeah.
And I thought, given time and attention, we could do some really fun things with Netheril and explore a style of magic that felt different from contemporary magic. Expedition to the Barrier Peaks would be the sort of vibe I'd like to go for, where the magic is so weird it almost feels technological. Because if I'm right, it's been since like 2nd edition that they actually did a Netheril or Netherese book, right? In modern Forgotten Realms, Netheril is all ancient and rumor, right?
Right. And I think even in 2nd edition, the if I remember right, the Netherese adventure, maybe Mr. Welch is still in the chat and can chime in on this. I want to say the 2nd edition adventure that focused on the Netherese Empire was because the Netherese had these giant floating cities, and they were like powerfully, like super powerful magic. Like they had 10th level spells. That was like the way to signify that the Netherese were so much more advanced than the current society of whatever version of D&D you're playing, is that they had 10th level spells. And that's what kept these floating cities aloft with some special 10th level spell. But I think the 2nd edition adventure, you find one of these floating cities that has crash landed. And so it's a dungeon that you go into, but you're actually crawling through this, fallen city. And yeah, there's like these weird, like alien-like creatures that are left over from the Netherese imperial reign. if I remember correctly. That was I never played it, but I remember perusing it at a game store, deciding not to buy it.
Empire of Magic was a box set that came with a few different books. Well, interesting.
Somewhere,
go ahead.
Somewhere, a critical role fan's head just exploded.
Floating cities.
They stole that from Matt Mercer. With a time machine.
But yeah, so the Netheries were largely responsible for why there's magic artifacts scattered all over, the D&D world, right? That this super high fantasy, super powerful magic empire existed long ago, and it fell, and in falling, littered the world with all these relics and artifacts that you now find as your D&D characters.
Wasn't that the sort of the original subversiveness pitch of Eberron? Was that Eberron was like magic is current technology, whereas in most of the D&D settings, magic was stuff that there's a finite number of magic swords because they were all left over by some civilization from 10,000 years ago. Whereas in Eberron, it was like, no, we're doing magic with every day. We use magic every day to do everything.
Right.
And it's like it's technology now instead of like some kind of ancient thing that we don't understand. Yeah. Does that sound right? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah. No, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So it's interesting that these obelisks were part of this Chris Perkins' plan to time travel. Apparently, if Vecna was supposed to still be the bad guy, right? Because the title of this says Vecna Eve of Ruin was supposed to bring all these things together. So were you like going back in time to fight Vecna with Netheries technology? Like, I'm curious to know, like, what was Perkins percolating?
I'm curious how much Shattered Obelisk played, because like Shattered Obelisk is clearly about the obelisk, and in a lot of ways felt like, not that I'm satisfied with every aspect of it, but it felt like the culmination of 5e. You started with Lost Mine of Phandelver, you dotted out all these obelisks. They didn't really tie it up in a bow, but it does focus on you're putting these pieces back together, and you're trying to stop somebody else from doing horrible stuff with this ancient technology. And they talk about the origins of it a little bit more, and it felt like they were teeing it up for Vecna. Disappointing. I mean, see Jim's channel and my recent experience with the campaign of it. Not the best adventure, but this is such classic D&D shit right here. Just like a dungeon master or game designer in this case, who's still a dungeon master at heart, having this like epic 10-year plan that you can't stick the landing because you thought too big, and it just didn't quite work out the way you wanted to, and you leave all these threads that keep people wondering about like what could have been. Mm-hmm. And that's a meta D&D story to me so much. I've done planted so many seeds that will never bear fruit in my homebrew and campaign creation. So as much as it's a bummer, it does bring a smile to my face that Perkins was like, yeah, man, I had this whole plan, and then life happened, and in his case, he got promoted.
Right.
But
yeah, well, so like if you're trying to stick to some sort of Forgotten Realms canon, right? So what we do know from the actual adventures about these obelisks is that they appear to connect the material plane to some other plane of existence, right? Because you have the obelisk that's in the Shattered Obelisk adventure. You also have the obelisk that's in, I'm pretty sure it's Tomb of Horrors, where if you mess with it, it summons a demon from the abyss. So the one in Tomb of Horrors is clearly connected to the abyss. the one in Shattered Obelisk is connected to the Far Realm, right? So if you want to use these obelisks in a campaign, you can, hatch whatever interplanar exchange you want that fits your story and use one of these obelisks as a gateway to one of the other planes of existence.
Yeah, so really, I tracked it down the section of the Shattered Obelisk adventure where it actually talks about them, and all it says is a mysterious group called the Weavers created them to undo great calamities. So, like, this was Perkins' plan. They just, instead of actually implementing it, they just explained it here in a couple paragraphs. So, I remember feeling very underwhelmed when I read this. Like, oh, so we know who did it, and why, but now what?
So they're designed to undo calamities. So Vecna, Eve of Ruin could have been, if Perkins had creative control, the adventure starts with Vecna having destroyed things, and the players have to go back in time to use Netherese technology to undo whatever calamity Vecna had unleashed.
Yeah, it's a real easy hook. Adventurers walk out the door of the tavern, and all of a sudden, everything is in flames.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, you have to go back in time now,
and fix it. Yeah.
I don't know if that would have been good, but Eve of Ruin was so bad, it probably would have been better.
Yeah. So interesting.
It's for an industry with such a wealth of institutional knowledge available. I think that is the resource that WotC seems to squander the most. Maybe second to customer base goodwill. But the idea that, like, okay, you couldn't have sat down with Perkins, who was still in the building, and been like, hey man, why don't you just give me the bullet points? You don't need to write this 400-page adventure, but, like, what were you thinking? And maybe we'll do that instead of just, I don't know, recycling a bunch of old nostalgia bait and then pull a Scooby-Doo, and nothing's going to quite feel satisfying for the grand culminating adventure to this peak D&D era.
And the problem with this is that when Justice Armand and James Hake decide that they want to do something similar for 6e, we're not going to trust them. When something else weird starts showing for adventurers, be like, oh, I can't wait to be disappointed in 10 years what this is actually related to.
Yeah, well, and the lack of trust wouldn't be in Justice or James, right? The lack of trust would be directed towards WotC because we don't know, are they going to support Justice and James's vision, right?
Indeed.
Like that's the vibe, right? Is that we just don't trust the company to let their creatives be the creatives that they hired them to be.
Remember the Frostbane had a time travel component? I don't remember that part. It's been a long time since I read that adventure.
I think there was one in Storm King's Thunder. I think...
Yeah, there's a list here. Yeah.
Okay.
Annihilation, SKT,
there you go.
The Mad Mage, Out of the Abyss. That's it.
I played in Rime of the Frostmaiden, but that campaign got cut short because of the pandemic. So I never got to a cool time travel component. It was one of the few times I got to play, though.
Lame. Any final thoughts on the obelisks?
Yeah, I want to live in the alternate dimension where Chris Perkins got to write that adventure and Prince is still alive and the economy is good. That's what I want. That's my
James
wish.
Vanderbeek, he should still be alive. It's bullshit that they took James Vanderbeek from us. What did he ever do? Nothing but bring people joy. Rest in peace, Dawson.
This is what it sounds like when doves cry.
If if you haven't seen Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, James Vanderbeek is very good in that show. It's an excellent short-lived comedy series. Okay, so I think we're about out of time here, so we're gonna wrap things up. And any closing thoughts, gentlemen?
Oh, play more role-playing games.
Yeah.
I have to say that had a lot going on and haven't played enough RPGs in the last 3 months, and it has not been good for my soul. My soul needs more RPGs.
I hear you.
It's good for you. Take your vitamins. Yeah, nothing is guaranteed. Take your 10-year plan and get cracking, because we don't know what's going on 10 years from now, if there will be a D&D 7th edition or a whole lot of other things are up in the air. So yeah, be ambitious, but get shit done. Make hay while the sun shines. Nothing is promised.
And from all of us here at the Landlocked Warlocks, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so from all of us, we sincerely hope that you get laid this weekend. From us to you, we hope you get laid, and tell someone you love them. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Be safe, and we'll see you soon.